I'm Dr. Rosa Sailes of the ESMA Project, and I'm here to welcome you to another of our interviews on Shift. Tonight, we're blessed to have two wonderful women with us. The question of the night is, what do you do when the unexpected happens in your life? Shift, uh-oh, Lorenzo is on and should not be.
Hey,
Hi, you need to go to Facebook Live. Ah, okay. So Lorenzo needs to go to Facebook Live, and I don't know how to tell him that, but anyway, you're looking at Dr. Lorenzo Modest, who is from Atlanta and joining us unexpectedly. And I forgot, I sent him the link. I shouldn't have. But anyway, so tonight we're interviewing Pam Morris-Walton and Cathy Lynn Saunders on the books that uh, they've written today on Shift. Um, these two women have written some really influential and wonderful work, and we're proud to have them with us. We're going to begin with Cathy Lynn Sanders. Cathy Lynn was born with a disability, and she was encouraged through her adoption to live powerfully and courageously. Today, we delve into her book, which is called My Name is Cathy Lynn. And I was excited to read it. It's a book of poetry and prose, and it chronicles her life, her work, and as an advocate for people with disabilities and the sexual abuse that they so often face. So, ladies and gentlemen, Cathy Lynn Saunders. God bless you. Welcome, Cathy.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone.
Um, your book, I want to read something as we start, and that is a little something you wrote in the introduction. It says, I identify as a PWD, person with a disability. I hold certification as a self advocate from the University of Illinois at Chicago, as well as a BS in speech communication from Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. This book is written as a love letter to all those who are marginalized and struggling, to silence all the people who tell you you will never be, you will never do, you can't do this or that. So why even try? If you share in these identifications, Black or disabled, or experiences, struggling because you are different, this love letter is meant just for you. Cathy, why did you call it My Name is Cathy Lynn, and why is it a love letter?
I titled the book My Name is Cathy Lynn because throughout my entire life, I have been saying my name is Cathy Lynn because people see Cathy and think it's short for Catherine or Kathleen, and that is not my name.
Okay.
So I've been saying all my life, my name is Cathy Lynn. And the reason that it is considered a love letter is because I want to speak to my audience of marginalized and underserved populations with the strength and the knowledge that regardless of what your issue is, what your struggle may be, what may be the mountain that is unmovable, you can achieve. You cannot listen to those people who tell you you cannot do this or that, you will never be. You have to hear the voice that is inside of your own head, and you have to listen to what is in your heart and work as hard as you possibly can to get where you want to go.
You know, that brings me to if you could share a little bit of your story, because I know a little bit, but just a little bit. And your book beautifully tells some rest of it. Tell us a little bit about your family, your struggle, and when you began to, and how you began to realize the beauty and the power that you possess.
Uh, I come from a family where the word can't is not in our vocabulary. I come from a family where the women in my family are strong, powerful professionals. So when you grow up in that environment, when no is not an option, can is not an option, you automatically realize that you have to aspire to be something greater than society tells you that you can be. And you've been given examples by these powerful women. So that is a little bit of my story. We've all, as long as we are Black and female and disabled, I was always told that is 3 strikes against you. But I have decided to make them not strikes against me, but assets to empower me.
Very good. You do a lot of work to enable and empower people who have disabilities, whether they were born with them or became disabled throughout life. Tell us a little about how you got into that work and how you prepared yourself to do it.
Well, when you're born with a disability and African American and female and in living in impoverished communities, there isn't really much for you to aspire to if you listen to society. But I was always fighting for, this is what I want, this is where I want to go. And I didn't know that there was a word for that. The word is advocacy. Advocacy has been who I am my entire life. But as I got older, I realized, oh, there is a term for this. I was always fighting to have a piece of the American pie, let's say, and I fought for just what everybody else would consider to be just the basic of the American dream. But how I got into the work is that I was a victim of a crime, and someone who works with people with disabilities who've been victimized invited me to do a training. And I was invited with other state professionals and came to my first realization that I'm not the only one, that this is something that's happening to this population. And then once I got done with the training, they invited me to do the Illinois Lynn program. Lynn is an acronym for Leadership, Education, Neurodevelopmental Disabilities through the University of Illinois. And that is how I started doing this powerful work. It was an internship, a 300 level, like a master's, but it's certified, and you become professionally an advocate. Is one of the self-disciplines of Lynn.
Very good. You have taken this on with such power, and it's given you not just a way to advocate, but also a voice. I know you've traveled throughout the city and around the country with your poetry. How has your poetry addressed the issues that your work in advocacy has helped?
I'm so excited now because I literally thought that my book was just going to be something that would, enhance the coffee table of many living rooms. But this book now, the poetry in this book has now been utilized as part of training videos. I have done videos where I speak the poetry so that people can hear my voice. But what is the most exciting, those professionals that work with people with disabilities are utilizing the poetry in their daily trainings. They're utilizing them for healing purposes. And I never dreamed that my poetry was going to do that. I thought people would read it and just be inspired by it and have it on the bookshelf. But these words are now moving and healing, and they're no longer mine. They're like children. Once the mother lets go of her children, you never know what your babies are going to do, but you have to let your babies fly. So they're flying, and I'm just in awe of where everybody's going.
As you know, your book covers so many topics. For example, there's one poem that you have called Sister Soldier, and it also addresses, it says, embrace also our male comrades. Why did you write this particular book and this particular poem, Sister Soldier?
That poem was written, first of all, to honor African Americans in the military, but also to honor all women who are in the military fighting for the country. But basically, I wrote this after seeing the story on Ray Charles, the movie Ray, and I realized how much this gentleman with a disability who happens to be African American had done for society, and yet he was, not honored in his own state. But later on in his life, they apologized to him. He lived through segregation, and then he became honored. But what was upsetting to me is that, I don't know if people remember this, but his death and former President Ronald Reagan's death were on the same day, and they didn't give Ray Charles nearly the coverage that they gave former President Ronald Reagan. And yet I was thinking, look at all of the good that this man has done at a time when there was no ADA, no Americans with Disabilities Act, no legislation, no support for him. And he did this on a national level. So while I was writing this poem, I was listening to the words of his song, America the Beautiful.
He does a great job with that. I love that song. Yeah. Go on, I'm sorry.
So that's how that poem came to be. I was angry because I felt like he didn't get the recognition that he deserved. And it just came out that I thought about the women who aren't getting the recognition they deserve, and how America has not lived up to their creed for all people to be created equal and free.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. In your book, you not only tell your story, but very powerfully, you tell the story of disabled people who face sexual violence and sexual abuse. There's one line, I think I've told you, that really stuck with me, and I've shared it with other people. And in that particular line, you say, "You took me out of my wheelchair. I didn't give you permission." And I think that we don't realize the depth of the abuse that disabled persons can face. Would you tell us something about that cause and about what's going on and what we need to know?
Unfortunately, there is an 83% rate of abuse against people, sexual abuse and violence against people with disabilities, particularly intellectual disabilities. So I have taken it upon myself to be a strong advocate to fight this, and we're fighting it by educating people about what sexual abuse is. Also, I've created and done videos with various organizations such as Blue Tower Solutions. I've worked with the Alliance of Illinois. I've worked with Vera Institute of Justice, which is part of the U.S. Department of Justice. And a lot of this work is intertwined because all of us are fighting against violence and abuse for people with disabilities because it's happening too often. And no one has taught that population what to do if something happens, nor have they been taught how to prevent it, mainly because a lot of people are institutionalized, and the institutions do not believe in educating persons with disabilities about sexual violence and abuse. Also, we do not get education about sexual relationships and healthy sexual relationships either, because one of the downfalls of being disabled is that you are not seen as a sexual being and you are not seen as a human being. In much the same way that has happened to Black people before the civil rights movement.
So when you say that there isn't training on this, where and how, where and how do you see the need for institutions or for legal action or for laws or something to mandate that the level of education needed, both of health, as you said, sexual healthy relationships, as well as prevention of abuse, and how to report it when it happens? How should that come about? Do we need laws? What do we need in order to help get that done?
We need all of that. I'm working currently with the Vera Institute of Justice Center for Victimization and Safety. We are creating several videos, which are the SALSA project right now, which are teaching on how to identify sexual abuse, what is sexual abuse and violence, how to help people who've been victimized of it, but also what we need to do is have more resources. For instance, if a person is in trouble and needs safety, we not only need shelters for survivors of abuse, but we need shelters that are accessible. We need resources that are accessible. We need to work with our law enforcement officers to understand how to work with, for instance, if a person has autism and has been hurt in some way, how do we communicate with them? I'm currently working with the Crest, Illinois project where we're doing exactly that. We're coming up with types of resources that the police can have in their police car, whereas if they come across a person with a disability, they will have some way to communicate with them where they can ask them, what do you need? For instance, do you have your medication? Do you have your specialized equipment for your disability? Do you have access to hospital and a SANE nurse if you've been sexually assaulted? And SANE stands for Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner, which is what you're going to need if you decide to prosecute your rapist. You're going to need that evidence. A lot of people do not understand how to access the criminal justice system. So that is another thing that Vera Institute of Justice is working on. And I'm a part of at least 4 different projects right now.
Good. There's so much that you tell in this book. I'm going to ask you to read an excerpt, probably any excerpt you want, and then I'll probably ask you to read another one. But if you could share with us something from My Name is Cathy Lynn.
Okay, I'm going to share an excerpt from Sister Soldier, and this is on page 46 of the book.
Okay.
Salute the spirit of the fallen one and be not ashamed to cry. Forget not your feminine charms. Remember the child on the home front who will not feel the strength of daddy's arms or suckle mommy's tender breast. For you, dear sister soldier, that child is the ultimate test, asking you to, through tear-stained eyes, why his mommy had to die. Tell that little one about American freedom and that a good sister soldier fights till the end, and then allow that baby to suckle the milk of human kindness, drink from the wellspring of freedom, and to dine sufficiently from America's table of abundance. Make her well fed with the knowledge of our struggle until she is strong enough to take flight as the white-winged dove of peace. She will also protect and honor peace until she too is asked to be a sister soldier. and fight on.
All right, all right. Let's hear it for the sister soldiers who stand in the gap for those children and for so many of us, and stand with our brother soldiers who also are struggling.
Yes.
You said to me when we were talking about how to get your book, you told me you were really surprised at where we find it. I think we have a slide, but tell us how to get your book. First, tell us why we should get your book. Why should people get your book? I say because I like it, but you tell them why.
This book is a book that I feel speaks to what we're doing with today and speaks to the children of today, whether they be Black, female, and people with disabilities, whether they be male with disabilities. This book offers a little something for everyone. There are poems, yes, on sexual violence. There's also poetry on upliftment of the Black family and Black culture. There's also poetry on disability. There's also poetry and prose on just being who you are, being free to be who you were meant to be. So I'm hoping that this is a positive message, especially during the pandemic when we have so much grief over so many things. We cannot give up. We have to remember the lessons of the ancestors and fight on. And that's not only for African Americans. This book is for everybody.
Very good. And you told me you were surprised when you actually realized it was in so many places. What was that like for you as a first-time author to see your book in print someplace?
I'm just excited. Like, I have loved poetry since the age of 8 years old. I've been writing since the age of 8 years old. But as a child, you're still a child, so you don't know yet if you're going to be powerful enough. You don't know how people are going to receive your words. But I always felt like I have a voice. And at some point, I'm going to have a voice that will command attention. And people will pay attention to what I'm speaking about. But I also, growing up, worked on my speaking abilities. And I have to make sure that before you speak, you think. And you make sure that your words are not only powerful, but persistent. They are there constantly. They are a constant reminder of your strength, of your resilience, of everything that is positive about the place and the people that you come from.
Excellent.
I always feel to use your platform to uplift your people. And if I may mention Cicely Tyson's book, Just As I Am, it was such an inspiration to me. And she lived, so long and under such scrutiny because, once again, there weren't any laws, there weren't any protections for African Americans. So if she can do it, then I'm part of the next generation.
Okay.
Who follows her example.
You said that you had a request of those who read your book to respond. How do you want us to respond?
I ask of you, don't just leave it on the coffee table, read it and leave it on the coffee table or the bookshelf. Please write me a review, and please write a review that is a constructive criticism, because it will make me a better author. But I also want to know what my audience not only thinks of the book, but what do they want to read. I have a lot of things in my repertoire. This is only book number 1. I have a huge file of things that I've been writing since I was a child. So this is only a little bit of it. I have other things, but I want to know, what does today's reader want to read? What would be uplifting and hopeful, not only to the Black community, but to disability community, to the community of women, to all minorities and marginalized? What do you want to read? What do you want me to say to you? And then I'm looking for your response to make me a better author.
Okay. So everybody who's listening, make sure you get My Name is Cathy Lynn. It's available on Amazon, on what else was it? iTunes, Walmart.
No, I'm not on iTunes. I'm on Walmart, Barnes and Noble, and okay. I'm also on Amazon.com.
Okay, so make sure you get Cathy's book. And I would tell everybody to get more than one, because I found myself, after reading it, sharing with other people and saying, you really need this book. So I got copies for myself, and then I got copies that I shared, and I got copies to share before I knew that I needed to share them. And then once I started reading, I'm like, yep, I know who should read this. And not necessarily to the community of disabled persons, but to all people. As you said, all people. We need to be aware as part of the community that there is a part of our community that is struggling, a part of our community that is marginalized in a different way. And we need to be sensitive to that. I cannot tell you any statistics on how often we overlook someone or we don't. You know, I was someplace today in a building that's a municipal building, and I was kind of amazed. You could get in. I don't think there were any stairs to get into the building, but if you wanted to do anything in the building other than take care of the municipal needs, there was no elevator, but there were 2 flights of stairs. You know, those kinds of things we don't think about. Having a washroom in a place that says there's a handicapped washroom, but you really can't get in it, particularly if you're in a wheelchair. All kinds of things we don't think about, and particularly the whole issue of abuse. We did an interview here on Shift a few weeks ago on sex trafficking, which is one of the issues that we've taken on, education regarding sex trafficking. And, you know, nobody is exempt from that kind of abuse and from being sexually abused. So, Cathy, thank you so much. Do you have anything you want to say before we leave your segment? It's all you.
I just want to thank you for having me, and thank the other guest, the other author, Miss Pam Morris-Walton, who's on with me. It's an honor to make your acquaintance. And thank everybody just for giving me a chance to speak. And please do purchase the book, not just for people with disabilities, but for everybody.
Very good. Thank you, Cathy. We're so proud of you. I should, a matter of disclaimer, I've known Cathy for a number of years. I think she was a high school student when I first met her. And just to have watched her grow and be empowered and to do such powerful work is absolutely amazing to me. So thank you, Cathy, for joining us tonight. And definitely when book 2 is ready, you'll be back on. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. God bless you.
God bless. God bless you. Thank you. We're so happy to have had Cathy, and we're also happy to have our other guests. Pam Morris-Walton, most of you know. She's one of our most beloved radio personalities. She's a Stellar Award winner. She's an authority on gospel music, as well as her husband is an authority on gospel music. They're both radio personalities. I first met him and he was on the West Coast, and now he's in Chicago, and so it's absolutely wonderful. She's a consultant for gospel events, and for many years, Pam ran the city's special events, including the beautiful breakfast of honoring Dr. King on King Day, which I attended, and the Gospel Fest, which she created, everybody. So I want you to know that didn't just spring forth It was from the mind of Pam Morris. And so I'm so happy to have Pam with us today. Pam and her husband, Frank Walton, host every year the Ezra Project's Torchbearer Celebration. For those of you who don't know, go to www.theezraproject.com. Every year we honor the unsung heroes in our churches, and Pam and her husband have for at least 5 years been our hosts. And we also have the Sales Legacy Scholars that we honor every year. And this year we're adding a humanitarian award as well. So we're glad to have Pam with us now, and Pam and her husband with us when we do these events, whether we're doing it live or we're doing it virtually. It's a joy. And Pam is just such a joy. So ladies and gentlemen, Pam Morris-Walton, welcome to Shift. How are you today?
Thank you so very much, Dr. Rosa Sailes. I enjoyed Cathy and you, and wow, that was just a magnificent interview. And thank you for having me, and good evening to all of our viewers.
Okay.
I love you.
For those of you who are listening, I want to read to you. If you order Pam's book on PamMorrisSpeaks.com, right? If
Yes.
you order it on Pam Morris, now you don't get this if you order it just from Amazon or Walmart, or well, her book is in Amazon, Barnes and Noble, iTunes, and there's an ebook version available as well. But if you order it from PamMorrisSpeaks.com, you not only get an autographed copy like I have, but you also get this bookmark. And I want to read to you what Pam wrote on this bookmark, because I think it synthesizes what she's done. So as we begin to, as we go to start this interview, I want to say, Pam wrote in this bookmark, 57 days is written to tell my story while facing a medical challenge like never before in my life, my heart. I caught a virus, and no pacemaker or stent would give me life, only a new heart, or I wasn't going to live. I would die. How do I deal with this unimaginable news? I've never been in this place before. I no longer had control over my life. A voice took residence in my brain and said, tell your story. So Pam, thank you for being here on Shift tonight to tell your story. I laughed when I started reading this because it tells a little about Pam's life. And if any of you know Pam, you've heard her on the radio for so many years, you think she's a native Chicagoan also, but she's not. So tell us a little about your life, Pam.
Oh, thank you. I was born in 1949 in Charleston, West Virginia, and raised up on the hill in St. Albans.
Okay. And you came to Chicago when?
I came to Chicago, it was around 1973, when during that season when the Honorable Mayor Harold Washington was unfortunately leading us by what had taken place that day.
Okay. So you've been in Chicago for a long time.
Yes.
And you always know that you wanted to be a radio personality. How did that come back?
I worked for Stevie Wonder's station, KJLH, Kindness, Joy, Love, and Happiness in Los Angeles. And I loved radio. It was just something about it. And my late Aunt Mabel told me that you can be anything that you want to be. Just work hard at it. And if you get rained on, be like a flower, bend, but you spring back up. And always leave the laboratory of learning open and be what you want to be.
Okay. Okay. I know you write a lot about your Aunt Mabel and her influence in your life. And that is just so wonderful.
Thank you. That was my first story.
Okay.
Lessons learned from Aunt Mabel.
Yeah. I know that we all know people. I want to get to your illness as well. It was a shock to me. I saw you and I said something to you, and I didn't know you had been sick. And we kind of prayed together, but you still seemed very strong. And so I didn't know what was going on with you, because you always got such grace and dignity that I never know what's going on. And but I did realize that we all know people who have congestive heart problems.
Yes, we do.
And in the Black community, so many diseases, so many illnesses, we take for granted. And so if you say, oh, that person has congestive heart failure, it's just another thing. That person has high blood pressure, it's just another thing. We don't really look at how serious this could be. But in your case, it was very different.
Yes,
tell us a little bit about, shed some light on us for what exactly happened with you.
Well, in the first chapter on page 11 in my book, which I'll give you, I'll read an excerpt later in this interview, I was short of breath and I didn't know what was going on with me. And nearly, I should say, nearly 6 million Americans are affected with congestive heart failure, and it weakens your heart. And a heart pumping is what happened. It wasn't normal anymore. I wasn't a smoker. I didn't have high blood pressure. And all of a sudden I catch something and it affected me to the fact that it overwhelmed me so much, which I wrote in the book was the reason you didn't know and many other people didn't know, because I couldn't hardly believe it was happening to me. And I did not know, honestly, how to accept it. And especially being told on my son's 45th birthday that I had congestive heart failure and didn't know exactly what that meant to me. I didn't know. I didn't have an idea.
Okay. I hear a sound, some background. I don't know where that's coming from. But anyway, 57 days. Just tell us about this book was so important. That voice in your head was saying, write your story.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? Because I remember it took you a while to write it, to get it all down, but I have the sense that your process was interesting. So tell us a little about your process, how you came to write this.
57 days, Dr. Sailes. My book is about, it is not exactly about the miraculous 27 day that the heart came. In 27 days, where people wait for years, for months. When I left the hospital after a few days short of 2 months, which ended up being 57 days, I left people there waiting on a heart. But I received a heart in 27 days. And the book, I'm telling in the book about the entire story of what took place those days. I really wrote it in a journal that was given to me by my next door neighbor named Pat.
Okay.
And I wrote about it. I wrote about, if you came to see me, if you knew, if you were close family friend, if you're really close, and my husband, Pastor Frank, and family, I wrote about it. And if they came, I had them to write in it too. They wrote in the journal. And then I went back, and then I started thinking about this medical challenge and this life-threatening heart condition situation that I had. And I wasn't the only one that have had that, but I wrote about mine. I can't tell no one else's story, but I sure can tell you I'm a walking miracle with a heart. Yeah.
You celebrate your heart birthday every year. Yes. How have you been celebrating your heart birthday?
Well, the first one, my husband surprised me and brought some people together, and I thought that we were just having a lunch. And when I finally got off the radio and got to this particular place, the room was full of friends and family and people that had flown in, driven in, took train in, took plane in. And I'm like, wow. And he just brings people together just for the actual celebration that this is my other birthday. My original birthday is December 20, but that heart came on the night of August the 24th, and it was sewed into my body on the 25th of August. Most people, such as maybe yourself, you're living with the heart you were born with.
Yeah.
I have Mario's heart.
Tell us about that. You know, we see television programs and they say, you know, the donors and the recipient want to meet. Tell us how that came to be and what you know of your donor and your donor family.
Well, I thank God for Jack Lynch and Miriam Schultz and the Gift of Hope organization. It just so happened years ago, and I don't tell this to many people, but years ago, I emceed a Gift of Hope event at a church down the street from Black Magnet School where my grandchildren went to school. At that time, they wasn't there at that time, but he said, you know what? I love your voice. I want you to do something for me. I didn't get around to doing what he wanted me to do, but I do remember him coming to visit me and saying, we can help you get that heart. And we're going to do a campaign. I was going to go on Channel 9. A lot of people don't know this. WGN came to the hospital, TV. They were going to interview me. And I wasn't ready. I had not told people that I was in the hospital because I needed a heart. And they interviewed another patient that was waiting on a heart, that was on the same machine in the book that I was on, the New Pulse Alved machine that Dr. Val Jubanandan, one of the greatest people in the world, did that surgery with Dr. Uriel and Dr. Kim and their team. But they were ready, Gift of Hope. They didn't forget me. I walked out of the room. I left Frank in the room. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go with no campaign. I just couldn't do it. But Gift of Hope didn't forget me. And after getting out of the hospital with the heart, after 57 days, I attended an event. And at that event, the former superintendent, oh my God, he needed a kidney. And we were at the same table. And at that table, Miriam Schultz of Gift of Hope, people don't know this. This is not in the book. She said, I think the family's about ready to meet you. And I went, wow, this is at least over a year and something after the heart had come. And it was a 2-day event where this gentleman who lost his life saved 7 lives with his organs. I received the heart. We gathered in Alatasca, Illinois at Gift of Hope headquarters through the wonderful people that worked there, Jack Lynch, Miriam, Calvin and others. And they had all the families to come together. He saved African-American, Asian, and Hispanic, and Caucasian lives. And I received the heart. We all met. I was the last person to go into the room to meet the family. And when we met, we just hugged and we cried. And everybody in the room was crying. Her whole family, the staff. And all she wanted was to hear her son's heartbeat. And they handed the stethoscope and she listened to her son's heartbeat in me.
Wow.
The next.
All of the people who received the hearts?
The other organs.
The
kidney, the liver.
Right.
I did not know them, but we came together. We ate lunch there. And then that next day, we all came together and worshiped at my home church, Apostolic Faith Church, Dr. Horace Smith.
Oh, wonderful.
And all the TV stations were there. All of
that is so wonderful.
Yeah, that was a real blessing. It was special. We just kind of cleaned together. I don't know, maybe because I did have the heart. I don't know. And of course, I am in touch with Emma and my husband weekly.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And I'm so thankful and I'm so grateful to have this heart with no rejection and no infection and 5 years old, August the 25th.
There you go.
You got me there. You kind of, I didn't know I was going there. You got me.
But that was, I mean, to read it also was actually very positive and powerful. And you really, the book is as much about you as you've just told in that story about transplantation. That's something that in the Black community, we don't do. We go around and say things, well, you know, I'm not going to put my body put that in on my driver's license because maybe somebody will kill me to take my heart.
Please become a donor. Please become a donor. Please
address that. And what exactly does, and I probably should have had somebody from Gift of Hope, but what exactly, how do they connect? And they connect across racial lines, correct?
Yeah, but I think I was a number. Okay. I believe I was a number. From what I recall, I was a number. Okay. And this number matched quite a few people's lives, this particular number. And I believe it was Jack Lynch. Matter of fact, I know it was Jack Lynch that kept a watch on that number. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
I was a number, not the name. It wasn't the name, it was a number.
Right. And that's good to know, because I'm sure somebody goes, well, Pam Morris is, you know, she's somebody. And so, you know, that's why. But as you say, you know, that's what God did. You know,
God did that.
And you were blessed that this person had made this decision to donate. Yes. And then the family followed through with that, and you were able to receive it, and for the life to go on and the heartbeat to continue.
Yes.
That is amazing.
Unfortunate that there are organs, Dr. Sailes, where people can live, such as a kidney, a liver. Is it a kidney, a liver? You can have the left kidney, the right kidney, and other parts of the body. But for death, you can't get anyone's heart unless that person is dead.
Right, right. And I'm sure that was an issue also, and you bring that up in the book, that you realize that somebody's life.
Yes, that's in the book.
That you may have life.
Yeah, yeah. And I found out later, which this is really something. I found out later through the mother that Jack Lynch went to her and told her that I know someone who will take good care of your son's heart.
Wow.
Your son, he will live on. Your son will live on through this person. I didn't know that. I found that out.
That's beautiful.
And when I met her, when we get together, it's kind of hard for us to separate each other.
Good.
I love Emma O'Neill. I love her.
Wonderful.
I love her because, again, his organs, because of being a donor, didn't just save my life. It saved 7 lives. I happen to get the organ of the heart.
Right.
Okay.
Great. Let me kind of shift a little bit to something that happens in your book. You talk about, and I know we've talked about the fact that if those of you who know Pam Morris, and if you see her there looking just so beautiful, Pam didn't go to the hospital like anybody else. You know, she was not doing a hospital gown with the opening in the back. That was not happening for Pam. Tell us about music, clothes, atmosphere, candles, family. Tell us what got you through that time.
It's in the book, everybody. It's really in the book, but I will tell you, I had my husband to bring a wardrobe to the hospital. I did not wear the hospital smock except for procedures, and it was only allowed in my room the night before for procedures such as right heart catheterization, other tests that you'd have to do, and you could not wear any makeup, no jewelry, none of that, just the gown. But I was cut off from the world, Dr. Sailes. Yeah. And everybody on that floor had on the same kind of gown. It was just in another room. And I couldn't, Now, this is my story. I cannot talk for anybody else. And it made me feel better. It made me feel better listening to gospel music and classical music and Bishop G.E. Patterson and Dr. Smith and the gentleman out of Indianapolis. His name escapes me, but it's in the book. I'm listening to all of this and just gospel songs one after another. I'm not going to start calling names, but oh my God, that music, that kept me in clothes. I got up, I got dressed, I went from the bathroom from the bed to the bathroom to the chair with pearls, these same pearls, everybody. Same pearl earrings from my son, Kenneth Morris, who bought them for me in Dubai. I think it was Dubai. He sent them to me years ago. And when he was on tour as a former United States lieutenant commander in the United States Navy, aviator. So those were gifts, and those things I kept. I had my MAC makeup. I put on my makeup. I put on my lip gloss and my lipstick, and I wore my clothes.
Yeah. It was so wonderful. I think you told me that in the end, the doctors realized that made the difference in waiting, to be in the hospital.
It made the difference.
Months,
And then when I walked the halls, I saw a couple of other people that was on the same machine. That's in the book. It's in the book, everybody. It's in the book. It's a great story. They were wearing pants and t-shirts because it was men. I was the only lady. I was number 4 in the world to qualify for a machine that helped me as a second heartbeat, helping me to breathe until I got the heart. I was number 4 in the world.
Wow.
That's a true story. Dr. Jubanandan helped design that machine. He also was my surgeon. And I didn't have just one false alarm. I wrote about one false alarm. That's when the heart you think is there and it wasn't the right one. So it was in the blood, honey. You see no blood zones? I think about my pastor with the blood zones. It's in the blood. Wow. But I made it out all right. Okay. He ordered my steps.
Yes.
He had his hands on me.
Definitely.
Every praise I give belongs to God. That was the music when I went into that hospital, into that operating room, whether it was for the right heart catheterization or a biopsy, they'd ask me, what's the music? And I would sing that music and I would go out singing that music.
Okay.
True story. I don't mean to go so long. I kind of get into this, but it's in the book. My story. And I have to tell you, a lot of people just don't know Pam. They don't know me. They just say, nobody can be like that all the time. But you can.
Yeah.
But you can't. That's why I think certain people that are stars and movie people, they don't have but so many people close to them and around them. Mm-hmm. They don't have to explain. So I'm saying to you, when you read this book and read me being raised up in West Virginia and how I was brought up, and it helped me to make it through what I experienced and went through. And let me tell you this about gospel music. There is no music in the world that affects you and the human mind like gospel music. No music. Jazz, I enjoy, I love, I go hear it with my jazz friends often. Classical, I listen to it, but gospel music, that good news music will bring you out all right.
All right.
Now I can give you a whole, another program on that, but we won't go there, okay? Because he laid his hands on me, and I can walk and talk with Jesus every day just because. Now, if I did not have had a personal relationship with him, I wouldn't be able to talk like this. I wouldn't be able to share with you this story. I would not have been able to, if I hadn't have been raised right. I was raised, you always get up and get dressed and look your best. Look your best. You don't never know what might happen. Okay, I know you didn't ask me to go there, so let me stop it.
I'm glad you did. You have something else though that you've done for a number of years, Pam Morris and Associates,
yes.
Your foundation. And
yes.
I want to let everybody know, but before the pandemic, I attended a couple of the events.
You did.
Pam was giving scholarships and got some really good deals in the
Thank
silent auction.
You sure did. Now, you know, you got some
I got some good
stuff.
Tell us a little about
You know why I did that? It was Kendra, my goddaughter out of Atlanta, and Flippin and Valerie. It was Deacon Reuben Burton, my son. It was Daphne. I came together, it was over 10 years ago. It's been over a decade. And I was retiring from the city of Chicago. I wasn't into really learning a new language, Spanish, which I kind of maybe wish I would have learned. I wanted to do something to help somebody. And I developed an organization to help students complete their education. It costs money to go to school, to college. Some people, that's why they're 5 years or more, or they stop and go to work because it is so expensive. So we have donated somewhere a little over, I would say during that decade of over 10 years, close to $40-some thousand to help students complete their education.
Okay.
And we bring together in an evening of inspiration, not all in one setting. You know, it's year after year, and people just give from their heart. And what is raised is given out, because we have people that donate to help us cover the expenses of the reception and the other things. I went to one company, I'll say this, and said, I just need you to give me something for the auction, or give me something for the students. He said, okay, pick out a printer, pick out a chair, and you can have that. I was like, and before I could even say that, I was reaching. I said, I want that one. I want that one. And I said, my son will be back to pick that up. And my son was in town because he flew in town to help us with that weekend. And he went and picked that up. And he said, give it to the students. The students need that. I don't know if you were there that time when it was up on the stage.
Right. No, I missed that.
Yeah. So it's not about us. In life, we live, but it's what you do for others that count and make the difference. It's not about us. And I asked the Lord on a couple of times, and I probably shouldn't have done this, but I questioned him, why you let me live? I went through a whole lot. I had over 100 and some needles in my body. I don't like needles. And in the book, I almost gave up. It's on page 51 or 54, maybe 52 or 53. I almost gave up. I think it starts on page 51. I almost gave up because I was tired of the needles. I was tired of my moving veins and them, shooting me. I got tired of waiting on a heart. Yeah, I got tired. And I said, maybe it's my time. But it wasn't my time. And I am still here because God said, your work isn't finished.
Yes.
And then I was newly married and hadn't been sick. Last time I was in the hospital was when I had my youngest son. My youngest son in August will be 48 years old. My oldest is 50. Oh, I'm just telling the ages. I know they go say, Mama, anybody told you to tell my age? But I'm thankful, and I wonder, why did he save me? Why did God keep me here? Why did he let me go through this when some people never get a heart? They are diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I caught a virus. I was wearing a face mask before the country started wearing face masks. I had to wear them. Once that heart came, I had to wear them in the hospital, and I had to wear them for 3.5 months after I got out and sit in the back seat of the car. So it was like Frank was driving Mrs. Daisy. You knew I was giving him orders. That was a true story. Okay, it's in the book too. But the heart I got, I'm not going to tell you. You all need to get the book. You get the book and you'll read the kind of heart Dr. Jubanandan said I have.
Yeah.
You read it, right?
I'm going to ask okay,
I'm sorry. I'm just going on and on.
No, I'm going to ask our engineer to put up how people can get your book, because they need to know, how to get the book, how to share the information. So it's here on the screen. Like I said, it's the Pam Morris autographed copy that you get, the bookmark, and I think, what else do you get, Pam?
Writing pen. You get a writing pen, a bookmark, and free shipping. Now, you don't get all of that when you order on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, or the ebook. But if you go through my website, PamMorrisSpeaks.com, and go to the page that says special, you will get the, and put it down. You can pay through PayPal, and you can get the book. And I'll be happy to autograph it for you. And what I say is I lived my story, Pam. Amen. Because I did. I lived this book right here. This book right here is about what I went through for 57 days. I can't speak on anybody else that's had a heart transplant, but I know what I went through. Yeah. And I'm still here to tell it. Amen. So I wrote about it. And just about everything I get, I give away. Ask my husband. He says she can't hold on to nothing. Matter of fact, somebody just left here picking up 2 bags of clothes. Okay. Donating, helping. Yeah. It's about what you do for others that makes the difference. It's not about yourself. And that's what you're doing. That's what the Ezra Project does. You're helping people. You're giving scholarships away. You're blessing people. You're giving people awards that never thought. Mama Shepherd never thought she'd get an award like that. And others that I was there. And thank you for that honor. Okay. And I know I'm talking a whole lot, but you brought it out of me tonight. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad, because you had not only a story to tell, a testimony to give, and encouragement to share with so many people.
I want the world to read my book, because it's a true story. Yeah. This really happened. You feel better when you put on some clothes, and you're going to be in the hospital. You can't go shopping. You can't go here. My husband represented me across the street at DuSable Museum. I'm looking out at the windows waving at him because I couldn't go across the street. Yeah. But the University of Chicago owns a lot of land. I could go on the land, but I couldn't go across the street because that wasn't their land.
Oh, wow.
Yes, 54th and Woodline, I think. Yeah, University of Chicago Medicine. So, yeah. So I thank you for this opportunity. When you told me you wanted to do this, I was very happy, and I was excited because you didn't have to do this. People don't have to be kind. And as the late Archbishop Lucius Hall once said, people can be kind, but they don't have to be kind to you. So I want to say thank you for your kindness tonight.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
I want to say too that on Shift comes on once a month on Thursdays, and we invite all of you to spend time with us. We each time look at a different topic and say something that hope helps shape your thinking and bring you to a point where you shift from your thinking and from what you normally do to understand the plight of so many other people. I thank Pam and Cathy for being on tonight. We ask that you visit us on the EzraProject.com. Visit our website, see what we do. Our Torchbearers event, it will be November of this year. We have 10 outstanding recipients. And we're giving also a new award this year for humanitarian service. So we invite you to join us. We also are giving 4 scholars awards this year. Our awards are for students who are involved in their churches and their community, and they're giving back. So high school students who are graduating from high school, going into either college or vocational school, and accredited schools, or seminary students who are currently enrolled in seminaries and Bible colleges. So we want to continue to help people, continue our message on human trafficking. So we ask that you join us on some of our platforms, that you be with us and share. And I advise all of us, shift your thinking. God has something special for you to do, something wonderful for you to learn, something amazing for you to share. So thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next month on Shift.